I am Dracula. I bid you welcome.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Thou shalt rise again.
Power to make multitudes run, squealing in terror at the touch of my little invisible finger.
Do you believe in werewolves?
To a new world of gods and monsters.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Chad here with Ken. What's going on?
Hey, I'm doing well again, my friend.
Cool. All right, we are back with our retrospective. We're making our way through the Universal Monster catalog, and today we are at the third one in our retrospective, The Mummy. Start us off. What do you think?
You know what's so funny? When I was a kid and I was first being introduced to these movies, I'll tell you right now, I watched The Mummy. I was so disappointed when I was a little kid because when I, thought of mummy movies, like old school mummy movies, what did I think of? I thought of the guy wrapped up in bandages who would, slowly walk and strangle people, And that's not what the original one is. And when I was a kid, I was really bored with it. I didn't like it much at all. As I've grown up, I've come to really appreciate it for what it is. So, what are your thoughts on it?
So I watched this one for the very first time, actually, a couple months ago.
Oh, you've never seen this one?
I had never seen this one. Again,
Okay.
I'd seen James Rolfe's review on it. And for some reason, I just did not get around to it. I don't know why. I haven't seen any of the other Mummy movies yet either from the Universal saga.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I will before we tackle them. But again, like you said, it's just I did kind of think, the mummy in the bandages. That's just what in anything almost the stereotypical mummy is. It's a mummy in bandages attacking people.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, and it's weird. I almost want to say the idea for this one was ahead of its time because this is a much almost smarter film than somebody almost could have came up with. Like we just came off of a vampire and a monster, and it was a vampire and a monster, and then they make a film called The Mummy. You think it is going to be the wrapped in bandages, but they took it a step further, and it's funny. Obviously, having seen the Brendan Fraser movie before this one, that I will say it. Yes, that was a remake of this movie. That was not in it. They obviously added a lot more with the special effects, but that movie took a ton from this film.
Yeah, and what's crazy is a lot of film historians have made the connections between this movie and with Dracula, because you think it's an undead creature that has lived through millennia. He has a love interest who he wants to make immortal like him. You got Edward Van Sloan as the genius scientist that's trying to stop him. You've got her love interest played by David Manners, who's trying to stop him. And they both have telepathic powers to control people. And they both have a talisman that repels them. For Dracula, it's the cross. For the mummy, it's the figure of Isis.
Mm-hmm.
So if you worded it right, you could talk about either one of those movies and people wouldn't know which one you were talking about.
Well, I guess then everyone go back and listen to our Dracula review. Thanks for listening in.
No. We have to give Karloff his props here.
Let's talk about the man of the hour himself. All right, so we just saw Karloff as the monster. This man's voice, is incredible. Yeah,
I love. I'll do another one of my impressions for you of these classic guys. Is when he is talking to the actress Zita Johann, who's playing.
Gorgeous, by the way.
She's gorgeous, and she's great in this movie. And I'd like to talk a little bit about her because she's actually got an interesting story. But when he's talking to her, and he says, I have tried to raise this thing from the dead. I could raise it now, but it would be only a cold, dead thing that follows my command. It's his voice is so hypnotic, much like Lugosi's is, but in a very different way.
I like that I think one of my favorite lines of his is, I don't know why this one sticks with me so much. Maybe because it was from that dark universe trailer they made, "Thou shalt rise again." It's just like this. His voice has just such a commanding presence to it that it's like you could almost like. And the funny thing is too with the makeup and the way he walks and carries himself. I mean, this man was an actor. This man is a legend for a reason.
Yeah.
The makeup done on him as Ardath Bay in this, you could have fooled me. I almost could have thought that was a real man.
Yeah.
Who just unfortunately happened to look like that.
Who aged so hard. And do you know how they got all of those little wrinkles on him? You know how they did that?
Mm-mm.
So I watched in my in the bonus features that we have on these box sets. Rick Baker was talking about how they did it, and Rick Baker is just a great monster makeup guy. I mean, he's so knowledgeable on all this stuff. But apparently, what they did is they used sheets of cotton, and apparently they used Egyptian cotton. Coincidentally enough, just because it was a much finer cotton. And what they would do is they would sort of wet it, and then they would place it on his face, and then they would like take like some sort of blow dryer or whatever they had at the time to dry it on his face, and it would make it just wrinkle up, and it just made his skin look so aged. But yeah, so, and you know what? We've been talking about the monster and the mummy and even Dracula, and we haven't mentioned the great Jack Pierce, the makeup man.
Okay. He did all of these.
He did all of these. He always wore like a surgeon's smock when he did it because he saw himself as this monster maker, this man that created the monsters.
He did it though. Can't blame him.
He did. So I mean, just huge props to him, and you know, Rick Baker will give props to Jack Pierce, but I wanted to mention him here because we missed him in the last two, especially for Frankenstein.
And mad props to the guy. He did a great job on all of these films.
Yeah.
But yeah, Karloff, the design of Ardath Bay is great. He's just, I think, how many people die in this movie? 1? 2.
Yeah,
2.
Yeah.
He only
2.
kills one, the guard, but then he causes Sir Joseph Wemple. I love that last
And then
name.
he dies at the end.
Yeah,
So-
and what a way to go, too.
Yeah, the disintegration.
And they did I'm shocked. I'm almost shocked they showed some of it. Obviously, we didn't see him, like, crumble to pieces, but it's like we saw the makeup effect of him turning to dust. And then the next shot was, his hat, robes, and a skull. It's like, okay, kind of shocked they showed that for what was this, 1932.
32. And also, this movie in particular was a lot more violent than Dracula and Frankenstein because in that flashback of him being buried, what did the guards do to the men that buried him is they impaled them with spears, and you see the spear going through someone in the blood. Because this was before the Hays Code, and they could show some gruesome stuff like that. But then the Hays Code came in, and then for the longest time, you couldn't see anything like that in a movie.
You know what? And props to this movie for doing a flashback scene.
Yeah.
Who would have thought of something like that back then, probably? Back then, stories were just beginning to end. I almost, because I'd heard about that scene, and I thought that's how the movie started.
Oh, was him being buried?
I would have thought that's how the movie would have started. I mean, and I'm not comparing this to the remake, but it's like the remake did everything in chronological order, whereas this one took it a step further and started with modern times of him already dead, and then it showed us what happened in the past.
Yeah, well, it's
for back then, for 1932, congratulations, good job.
And it's an interesting way they did it. It wasn't, just like, oh, I remember this. It was him showing her in the pool, in his mystical pool. He showed her their past life.
Yeah, and this is what happened to me after you died, because she obviously had never known.
Exactly, being the reincarnation. Now, speaking of Zita Johann, I gotta say, like you said, stunning actress. I mean, really, I thought Helen, I forget her name, who played Mina in the first Dracula, gorgeous woman, but Zita Johann is just stunning. And she was a pretty interesting actress, apparently. She was big into mysticism, and she was big into, the occult. And she later in life apparently did acting lessons, and she was a teacher. And she got it was very spiritual for her. She would have her actors sitting in a circle, and she would say, okay, you are going to play this character, then let us call upon the spirit of this character to inhabit your body. I mean, kooky Hollywood stuff which has not gone anywhere. But it's really interesting. And one of my favorite stories is apparently Karl Freund, the director, who was also the cinematographer on Dracula, he had the set like way too hot one day or something, and she passed out. She passed out when she was lying down on a couch, and she woke up later to first thing in her face was Boris Karloff in full Ardath Bay makeup, looking her in the eye, going, Zita, darling, are you all right? Which is great, because that's just another story. I'm not sure if you've heard this, that Boris Karloff was just such a sweet gentleman in real life.
I've heard he was a really nice guy. I have heard that.
Yeah, so I love that story just as an example of that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's. I think she did a really good job of playing the main heroine, because it's like, I think she did it. She was not just a damsel in distress. I mean, even switching between being Helen and Princess, correct me if I'm saying it wrong, Anck-su-namun?
I think it's Anck-su-namun.
One way, the princess. I thought she did a good job of the switching of the personalities, and even being the princess, I thought she had more personality than the princess in the remakes did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a great scene with her acting is when Ardath Bay, Imhotep, whatever you want to call him, is trying to kill her so he can revive her to be his mummy bride, is when she's like really torn about it, and she's just like, I am Anck-su-namun, but I'm somebody else too. I want to live even in this strange new world. Great piece of acting from her there.
That was. And you know what? They really dove into the mysticism of the curses of Egypt too, it felt like. Yeah. Obviously we didn't get like the CGI stuff of, the Brendan Fraser movies. But it's like, I still thought they did a good job diving into some of it. I mean, she like that, which, I forget which god did she pray to at the end? That
was it
Anubis? Isis. She prayed to Isis, and it destroyed the scroll of Thoth, which took out Ardath Bay. And the only thing that was weird though was when I was rewatching it, so the spell it killed him. And Frank was like trying to bring Helen back from being the princess, but we got no closure on it. He was like, you love her, like show that you love her and bring Helen back. And then it like showed Ardath Bay's remains, and it just goes to the end. I was like, what, did he save her or no?
That's another one of those just very abrupt ending. It's just like, oh, we gotta wrap this puppy up. Come on, guys.
But it's like with that one, it's like, no, did Helen come back, or is she like gonna be in a coma forever, or is the princess now in command of her body? Like, and that was, I'm guessing that was never addressed in the next sequel.
Well, here's actually what's interesting is, unlike Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, this movie, The Mummy, never had a sequel. There was The Mummy's Hand, The Mummy's Tomb, The Mummy's Ghost, and The Mummy's Curse, but those all followed a different mummy named Karis. Whereas this is Ardath Bay, Imhotep. So it's a totally different character, totally new story.
Once we hit those, we'll have to look some stuff up of why they did that, and we can talk about it. But I'm glad they didn't bring Ardath Bay back, almost, because almost like Lugosi as Dracula, almost by overdoing it, I think it almost would have lost the impact, because it's like, this design is, I far prefer this over the wrapped in bandages look. Maybe it's because it is Karloff. His eyes just do something to you when the camera is just fixated on them.
Like I said, it's when I was a young kid, I wanted to just see a wrapped up mummy go around killing people. But no, this is much more mature. This is a lot smarter. And it's actually funny. We mentioned how When you think of Dracula, you think slick back haired Hungarian accent Bela Lugosi. When you think of the Frankenstein monster, you think flat head, bolts in the neck. But when you think of the Mummy, you don't think of this. You think of the wrapped up bandages, limping and strangling people. And I'm not sure, maybe it's because, but then again, Lugosi only showed up one other time, so I'm not sure why. I think it's just because people want, the wrapped up mummy. They want it to look like a mummy. That's the only thing I can imagine.
And even in the Brendan Fraser movies, they still did the wrapped up, but he was CG. So and disintegrated kind of. So it was like he kind of got the best of both worlds with that one.
Yeah.
But I'll say it. The design of Karloff as Ardath Bay in this, it's perfect. And so I think when I was rewatching this, because like I said, today I rewatched this one because I wanted this one to be fresh. So I do remember, I'd say the first half of this is pretty slow and boring. But I think it's once that scene where Helen and Ardath Bay meet each other after Helen first got possessed and passed out. It was taken back to the house when her and Frank fell in love after about 30 seconds of talking to each other.
Yeah.
I'd say that's when the movie really started picking up. That's when it kicked into gear for me.
I agree. And again, my friend Matt of Film Feast has told me he's not a big fan of this movie. This is probably the weakest in his opinion of all the Universal monster movies. And that's how he felt about actually the other Mummy movies in this lineup. So it's definitely slow. It sort of goes back to the Dracula side of things and being a little slow. But again, just the lead actor, Karloff, is so captivating that he keeps you consistently entertained.
And like we said, Van Sloan is back in this.
Yes.
He didn't do as much in this one, unfortunately.
Not as much.
He did a little more than he did in Frankenstein, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you said, he really did feel like like an Egyptian Van Helsing.
Pretty much. One thing that I want to talk about in this movie is the opening when he is totally wrapped in bandages. The only scene where he's fully wrapped in bandages, but there's the moment where that one guy, the blonde guy, opens up the scroll, and then you just sort of see his eyes slowly open up, and you see his arm move, and that's a pretty haunting moment. Mm-hmm. And that dude's acting when he like takes the scroll and he's like horrified, and then he like has this look like he's going insane. I mean, it's over the top, but I buy it.
You know what? That almost would have been a good spot to stick Dwight Fry.
Oh, it could have been. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm shocked it wasn't.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. Goodness.
And it's funny because they said that guy they said he died. Insane,
yeah, he went insane.
Right?
He went, I think they said he like died in an insane asylum.
Would that really have been enough to push somebody over the edge?
I mean, you could say either the shock of the dead coming back to life did it, or maybe his mystic powers did it to him if you want to stretch it, but then that's all conjecture. Right,
because I was just like, because then it was like, that happens, and then they flash to Frank talking with his coworker about, that happened when your dad was here 10 years ago. Oh, he was in the asylum and he died in a straitjacket. I was like, well, that sucks.
Yeah, that sucks.
He brought the mummy to life and he went insane and died. Wow, that's terrible.
What a legacy.
But once again, like you said, David Manners is Frank Wemple. Very props for trying, but just very weak. He was overshadowed not only by the monster this time, but he was overshadowed by the female lead.
Yeah, Zita Johann. And look, this is nothing against David Manners. He does the best he can for the material he's given, but it's just the meat of his role is nothing compared to the other stars.
Yeah, he wasn't given much to do. He didn't get to wear anything that made him stand out from the rest of the crowd. He just looks like nothing against him. He just looks like a generic man.
He wasn't given the meat to work with.
Mm-hmm. So it's like like you said, he did the best with what he could, but look what he's up against.
Exactly. I mean, it's not a fair match.
And you know what? This is another thing. I don't really know what the censorship board was like back then. I'm kind of shocked the amount of skin they allowed Zita to show when she was the princess in her Egyptian garb.
Well, apparently that was here's something that's interesting that I've also heard is she and Carl Freund, the director of this movie, didn't have a great working relationship. And there was one point when he told her that she had to do a scene nude from the waist up. And really what it turned out to be was he just wanted to get her riled up so he could go to the studio and say, "Oh, you gave me this actress and she's tough to work with." And so pretty much she just looked him in the eye and said just like, "Well, okay, I'll do it if you can get it past the censors." And by doing that, she just shut him up. And so yeah,
she beat the director.
Exactly. So but no, yeah, and I'm really not sure. I think I like Dracula better than this. Like I said, these two are very similar in basically what their plot is, but I think Dracula is better, but I like this one a lot.
I think I would have to watch them one after another to make an assessment like that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And this might shock you, but right now I think I like The Mummy a little better than Dracula. I think it is Zita though that does it. Yeah,
she's really great. I think it's just Lugosi and Fry that really push Dracula ahead for me. But I'll say another great thing that The Mummy has is it's the first one in the lineup to have a full score throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It has music in the scenes.
And I really like the Egyptian setting too. And I think some of the models that they went with for like the pyramids and the sphinxes, I thought those looked really cool and really well done.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's so funny remembering this. I remember when I was a little kid in elementary school and I loved all these movies. I did love The Mummy in particular. And it like was a point where like as a little kid I wanted to be an archaeologist. Like when I was a kid and people asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I'd say an archaeologist. Because I thought it would be like Adventures in Egypt and not, right. You know, a lot of book reading and research.
Hey, you never know. You never know. You could uncover the next one.
I could be the next Mummy. I could be the next Indiana Jones.
There we go. I could see you pulling it off. I really could. Get to the hat, the jacket, the whip. It's all yours.
Absolutely.
So anything else to say about The Mummy? Or does that wrap this one up?
I think it wraps it up. Like I said, I mean, I like it a lot. When I was a kid, I was disappointed because I wanted to just see him wrapped up in bandages attacking people, but this is a lot smarter, a lot more mature. And yeah, I think Karloff's great, and I think the leading lady in this one gets a lot more to do than in the last two.
Mm-hmm. Everything you just said, I agree with you. This was... I'm glad I rewatched this one, because originally I was going to go off memory, and I'm glad I didn't, because if I'd gone off memory, I would not have had some of the positive things to say about it, because I was just bored the first time. But the second time watching it, and I think it's like it also kind of like kicked it a little bit in my memory, because I just rewatched the remake and its sequel the other day. So it's like rewatching this. I was going to rewatch this one on Saturday night, and I was like, no, I'm going to watch the more action-packed, loud movie. And I'm going to watch this one, Sunday afternoon when it's more relaxed and I'm not just like tired and ready to fall asleep. And I'm glad I watched it, because it's like it perfectly cemented into my brain. Gave me a bunch of better memory. And yeah, this a lot better than I remember. So
yeah, absolutely. It's a good one. And I think, the trifecta that I think a lot of people think of with the Universal monsters is Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman. And so I think The Mummy is unjustifiably sort of forgotten.
I agree. I think it's kind of forgotten because, like you said, there's two different mummies.
Yeah.
Two different designs of mummies.
And two different, like, ways of doing the character. There's this, mystic, intellectual type, and then there's just the grunting monster.
Yeah. Can't wait to get to those to see what I think.
They're fun, as I recall.
We'll see. Those are still a ways off, aren't they?
Yeah, I think, let's see, The Mummy's Hand is the first one, and that wasn't until 1940. So between this and that, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movies. So
okay. We've got a couple episodes to go. So, all right. Well, that wraps up episode 3 of The Mummy. So, guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. Have a good one.
Take it easy.